The topics that we cover in this particular series are the ones which are appearing in daily newspapers, how they can be beneficial for you to increase your knowledge, plus understand the topic and use these in any answer or any discussions or any other interview. With today's topics, first topic is India backing Palestinians United Nations full membership bid, part of our GS2. China's ambassador in India after 18 long months. What are the significance? Is there any kind of thaw in the relationship between India and China? How it is being viewed? So we will deal with it. Then comes power sector, hits and misses, means what are the uh, what are the reforms those are still required, or what kind of reforms had already been done? We will discuss. Then comes fourth one, that is turnout, delays, and Form 17C, Election Commission. You must have seen that various opposition parties met with the Election Commission officials and they talked about a late surge in the data that is being shown in the election poll percentage. So that is now being revised to some higher levels. Why it is so? So we will also see. So the first one, India backing the Palestinians bid for full UN membership. United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution with 143 votes in favor. Which one? United Nations General Assembly. It adopted a resolution with 143 in favor and 9 in against. 25 countries also abstained in this. It although does not give Palestinian full membership but recognizes them being qualified to join. So as of now, the things stand. Palestinians are qualified to join United Nations. So what is the United Nations? Membership will give them. This may include the right to be seated among member states in alphabetical order. So number one, right to be seated. Second is right to make statements. You can make statements on behalf of a group. Third one is among major representatives of major groups, the right of member of delegation of the State of Palestine to be elected as officer in the plenary and main committees of the General Assembly. Fourth one, what they get is right to full and effective participation in UN conferences and international conferences and meetings. Those are convened under the auspices of the United Nations General Assembly. So the right to be seated, right of members of the delegation of the State of Palestine to be elected as officer of the plenary and main committees, and participation in the UN conferences is what actually the Palestinians would get. Palestine, in its capacity as an observer state, does not have the right as of now to vote in the assembly. So, as of now, it is an observer state, and in the capacity of the observer state, it cannot vote in the General Assembly, or it cannot put forward its candidature for the UN organs, candidature like in the United Nations Human Rights Council, etc. So India on Friday voted in favor of a draft United Nations General Assembly resolution that talked about Palestine being qualified and should be admitted as a full member of United Nations, and it recommended that Security Council reconsider the matter favorably. The 193-member General Assembly met in the morning for an emergency special session where the Arab group actually resolution admission of new members to the United Nations in support of the State of Palestine full membership in the UN. It was presented by the UAE as it is the chair of the Arab group in May. So the resolution determined that the State of Palestine is qualified for membership in the United Nations in accordance with Article 4 of the Charter of the United Nations and should therefore be admitted to membership in the United Nations. This particular resolution also recommended that Security Council consider the matter very favorably in the light of this determination. India, if we talk about India, was the first non-Arab state to recognize the Palestinian Liberation Organization as the sole and legitimate representatives of the Palestinian people in 1974. India has also the distinction of being one of the first countries to recognize State of Palestine in 1988 and in 1996. New Delhi opened its representative office to the Palestinian Authority in Gaza, which was later shifted to Ramallah in 2003. So when we talk about India's, contribution in the Palestinian cause, these are the ones. Like India being the first non-Arab state to recognize the Palestinian Liberation Organization as the sole and legitimate representatives of the Palestinian people. India being one of the very first countries to recognize the State of Palestine in 1988, and in 1966, Delhi opened its representative office to Palestinian Authority in Gaza. So these are the effect. Now we will talk about what is the two-state solution in Palestine. India's commitment to two-state solution has been rock solid. Despite India's Israel relation being at a higher level and Prime Minister of India first time paying a visit in 2017 to Israel, despite that even India's stand on Palestinian issue has not gone down. India wants that for the lasting peace there should be two-state solution. Two-state solution means Israel and Palestine living side by side in this particular territory. Israel's actually solution can be that it can only be one state in the sense that where one state actually lives side by side. The one state actually will be living in the geographies, and the another state will be only Israel. So these are the things that we need to take care of. Then comes the first another topic, that is after 18 months, China is sending ambassador to India. So Chinese ambassador in our country is arriving after 18 months. There wasn't any ambassador to India. So the senior diplomat is arrived in New Delhi to assume office of the 17th ambassador to our country. As he says, his priorities are to work to. So how it is important? First of all, you are appointing the highest designated authority, because ambassador is the highest designated authority of that country in another country. So if that is absent, it does mean that the country's relationship with another country is not maybe of a highest priority, or there are some constant actually challenges which are not allowing the countries to send their highest representatives in the country. So if after 18 months the representative of China as an ambassador is being sent to India, it does mean that there may be some though. And as he's saying that he will try to restore cooperation and exchanges in various fields, and will try to create favorable conditions for a sound and steady India-China relationship. So the next phase we can see some sort of stability, cooperation, exchanges in the fields, and create a viable situation for, or favorable situation for, a sound and steady India-China relationship. As he also further says in an interview, he says that President Xi of China and Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India have agreed on an important assessment that China and India are cooperation partners and not the competitors. And as he says that they have reached an important common understanding that our two countries are each other's developmental opportunities and not threats. And this should serve as the fundamental guidelines for the growth of bilateral relations. But as you know, there are major irritants in this relationship, principal being China's all-weather friendship status with Pakistan. As you know, Pakistan is our enemy state, and Chinese people and Pakistanis people good relationship also poses some sort of irritant in our ties. Another irritant in our ties between China and India is the border. border area that is not number one demarcated, and constant flare-ups are happening despite the major understanding in 1992 that the borders will remain peaceful. Galwan clash in 2021 broke this particular tradition where some sort of violence happened. So this is another major irritant between India and China. One of the another major irritant is China's approach towards India's neighborhoods through debt diplomacy. That is also causing one of the major irritant. Another is the India has been raising, concerns about Belt and Road Initiative and it passing through Pakistan occupied Kashmir. China not taking a due regard to our sovereignty is also one of the major concern. Then there are other concerns at the global level, like non-designation of the terrorist at the United Nations General Assembly. So this is also one of the major irritant. China's reluctance to provide India entry into nuclear supplier group also is also another irritant in the relationship. Then there are others like China and Russia, those emerging as a crucial partnership in the wake of Russia-Ukraine crisis. That can also challenge India's calculations. Even China's role in South China Sea and threat to India's exploration in Philippines and Vietnamese exclusive economic zones about petrol or fuel is also a challenge. So there are lot many challenges between India and China, but after 18 months, if China is sending ambassador to India, it's a welcome news. He also says that, as President Xi Jinping said, if China and India speak in one voice, the whole world would listen. If both countries join hands, the whole world will pay attention. He says that ties between the two countries are slated for an important cooperation rather than competition. Now, the ties between two countries have been strained since tensions along the line of actual control. He further says that he looks forward and trusts that he will have the support and assistance of the Indian government and friends from all over the sectors. Both India and China are each other's important neighbors and the biggest emerging markets and developing countries of the world. The important consensus between our leaders and reach out to friends from various sectors is important, as he says. He also says that as the world is facing multiple challenges such as climate change, food and energy prices, weak economic recovery, these are the things actually where India and China can collaborate on a global scale. So when we talk about India and China's, importance at the global scale, we can say that there are multiple challenges like climate change, energy prices, high food and energy prices, weak economic recovery. So that's why close communication and coordination on global and regional affairs will not only bring opportunities to both the countries, but the world also. And it may add stability and positivity to the international relations. India and China last month stated that there should be better relations between the two. In April, in an interview with the US magazine, Mr. Modi, Prime Minister of India, broke his silence on ties with China and LAC standoff, calling for the two sides to urgently address the prolonged situation on borders. Border situation is one major irritant. Even so, that is the concern between India and China. Let us see how these countries actually move forward. Then comes another one, that is unfinished task in the power sector reforms. As you know, renewable energy has been the greatest priority as of now. Even after the Panchamrit, in COP number 27 that happened in United Kingdom, India talked about Panchamrit. So renewable energy is the biggest, push as of now. There was a time when there was a northern grid failure, which was mainly due to poor infrastructure or weak transmission network. Since then, successive power ministers have continued with the reform process in the power sectors. Measures have been taken to correct the situation, and average availability of power in our country has increased to 22.5 hours in rural areas and 23.8 hours in urban areas. The transmission losses in power sector have come down due to reforms in the revamped distribution sector. So number one, the availability of power actually has gone up. Number two, the AT&C losses, means transmission losses, have come down due to reforms in the revamped distribution scheme to help distribution companies, those are called discoms, improve their operational efficiency and financial stability. Promises of rural electrification and subsequently the promises of the electricity to every household were also met. From a power deficient situation, now the situation is emerging where we are becoming a self-sufficient state in power generation, thanks to the substantial generation capacity that has been added in the recent past. Substantial transmission capacity has also been added. Power sector in India has rewarded its customers, adding that the government is racing to add electricity capacity to meet the growing demand. We may be the only country to have brought in general network access. The power minister also says that he has tried to insulate the system and to curb the practice of making electricity a part of the political party's freebies. But the challenges that remain for the government in this sector is the last mile connectivity. So the last mile connectivity challenges are still there, and that is to ensure that healthy sub-transmission and distribution network which can flow power from producer to distributor to consumers with ease is required. According to Power Ministry, during 2023, 14,900 kilometer of transmission lines, 61,591 MVA of transmission capacity, and 4,290 megawatt of inter-regional transfer capacity have been added. In the last decade, around addition of 1,87,000 CKM, the transmission network of 4,79,000 CKM has evolved as the largest national synchronous grid in the world. So this is the power distribution system in India. The total inter-regional capacity to transfer power from one region to another has been enhanced to 1,16,000 megawatt. That is a 224% increase. But the challenges also, like India has huge ambition in energy transition and plans to have 500 gigawatt of non-fossil fuel based electricity installed by 2030. So India seeks to achieve 500 gigawatt of electricity from non-fossil fuel resources. That is the major thing. Wind energy for planning to have like that. The committee prepared a detailed plan titled Transmission System for Integration of over 500 gigawatt renewable energy capacity by 2030. The plan has identified major upcoming non-fossil fuel generation centers in the country. The centers include in Rajasthan, Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Telangana, Maharashtra, Ladakh, etc. And based on these potential generation centers, transmission systems have been planned. The transmission plan also includes transmission system required for evacuation of the 10 gigawatt offshore wind located in Gujarat and Tamil Nadu. So the plan provides broad transmission network requirement for having about 537 gigawatt of renewable energy capacity by year 2030. However, the challenge is evacuation of the renewable energy transmission availability. The location of the substation to lift the power makes a difference for small players in the sector to succeed. Ideally, the substation should be located within 5 to 10 kilometers. The actual location may substantially vary from the project location. So the connectivity access to grid continues to be a challenge. Streamlining processes and investing in the grid upgrades are essential to facilitate timely project commissioning and maximizing renewable energy utilization. Availability of land and potential litigation issues are also major hurdles. In case of remote locations, the transmission infrastructure is required to move power generated to consuming. Centers also increase cost for the IPP. So all these plus high transmission and distribution losses, which are more due to the political factors, end up burning a hole in the consumer's pocket. These make all reform efforts seem half-baked. So for any government to fully succeed in this sector, some harsh decisions may have to be taken. Then we come to the fourth topic, and that is regarding turnouts in the polls, delays, and Form number 17C. Election Commission of India has rejected allegations that the declaration of the final voter turnouts have been unfairly delayed. So we will understand why the data on voting percentage are revised after the polling date. So we will see. Election Commission of India has strongly refuted allegations that is made by opposition parties that the delay in the release of final voter turnout indicated an attempt to doctor the final results. So there have been a voter turnout increase of 5.5% and 5.74% in both these first and the second phase of polling. In an official release issued at 7:55 p.m. on April 19, the Election Commission of India has said the turnout in the constituencies where votes were cast in the first phase was over 60% till 7 p.m. The release said that final figures was likely to be higher after reports came in from polling stations where voting continued beyond the scheduled cutoff of 6 p.m. to allow voters who had already entered the stations to vote. So after 6 p.m., those voters who have entered the polling station are allowed to vote, and that is one of the reasons why the voting percentage levels go up. A day later, most reports, including those in the newspapers, also said that turnout was 65.5%, attributing to the senior officials of ECI. On April 26, when votes were cast in the second phase, the Election Commission of India press release issued at 9 p.m. put the turnout at close to 60.96% at 7 p.m. News organizations subsequently reported a more or less final figure of 66% based on the unofficial confirmation by the Election Commission of India. On April 30, that is after 4 days, the Election Commission of India released the final figures for both the phases, in which first phase for turnout was 66% and the second phase turnout was 66.71%. So after voting in the third phase on May 7, the Election Commission of India first released an estimated turnout of 61, while it was revised to 64 and then it was revised to 67.33. So why there is a difference between initial and final voter turnout numbers? So according to Election Commission of India, the initial number is a preliminary estimate which changes. ECI officials say the higher final figure does not mean that votes were cast even after polls closed. It could be simply due to the fact that the returning officers sent in the updated data late. According to Election Commission officials, even the data released on April 30 is not final. That figure will be known only after postal ballots are counted on the day of counting and has been added to the turnout. On April 19 and 26, state and constituency-wise turnouts were available in real time on the ECI's Voter Turnout mobile application. This app, which was launched by the Election Commission of India after second phase of polling in 2019, carries this disclaimer that this is an approximate trend as data from some polling stations takes time and this trend does not include data of the postal ballot voting. So final data for each polling station is shared in the Form 17C, and that Form 17C is made available to all the candidates through their polling agents at the close of polling. So Form 17C includes the total number of electors, total number of voters at that particular seat. This information is not available on the voter turnout app. So were the official turnout figures released 11 days and 4 days after phase 1 and 2 of the voting respectively? Unusually delayed are these? So Election Commission of India says that this is not unusually delayed. Election Commission of India has also provided details of the release of the official data for 2019 Lok Sabha elections and state assemblies. This data, they say, would satisfy that there is no unusual delay than what is required to collect data from large number of polling stations. The data provided by the Election Commission of India has showed a 1 to 3 percent point increase in the turnouts in the 5 to 7 days it took to release the phase-wise turnouts. Election Commission of India officials say that it takes time to verify and collate the data, particularly from remote polling stations. In some cases, political parties have to make it back from these remote locations to the district headquarters where they have stable internet connections also. So what is Form 17C? As per the Conduct of the Election Rules 1961, there are two forms that have data on the number of electors and voters, and that is called Form 17A and Form 17C. The Form 17A is a register of voters in which polling officials record the details of every voter who has come into the booth and signed the register. Form 17C is a count of the votes recorded. So this Form 17C is issued to the polling agent of the candidate at the close of the polling. It has the identification numbers of the EVMs, those were used in the polling stations, the total number of electors assigned to the polling stations, the total number of voters as entered in the register for voters, the number of voters who decided not to record their votes after signing the register, the number of voters who were not allowed to vote, the total number of test votes to be deducted, and total number of votes recorded per EVM are all included in the Form 17C. Form Part 2 of the 17C carries the results of the counting which are entered on the counting day. So data in the Form 17C are considered final and lie at the heart of any election petition that may be filed challenging the results in the Supreme Court. In a statement issued on April 30, the Election Commission of India said that actual data of Form 17C shall prevail, which is already shared with the candidates. Apart from being the record that is to be used in the possible legal challenge, the data in Form number 17C are also used by candidates to verify the results on the counting day. The number of electors and those who cast their votes is recorded in Form number 17C can be matched with the election voting machine count. So why there is a demand to make the Form 17C data public? So activists have sought to make a case for full transparency. They say that even if Form 17C is made available to the candidate's agent, given the large number of polling stations at each constituency, difficulties of coordination, and shortage of resources, many candidates find it impossible to collate all the figures for the constituency as a whole. The Election Commission of India has said that it is not legally bound to publish any voter turnout data at the aggregate level. It has sought to allay concerns by reiterating that the provision of Form 17C is a statutory requirement and no candidate or party has alleged that they have not received the form at the close of polling. So this is the debate why the turnout actually were initially shown low and there were delays in reporting the actual polling figures. Hope you were able to understand. If you feel that we were able to deliver some good quality content, you can like and share the channel. Thank you. For more such videos, you can like the button and subscribe the channel. Thank you.